Hello, everybody. I am Hounsi Fredasi. Welcome back to this episode of the Empress Journey. I am the goddaughter of Mambo Soleil and a senior priestess with the Envision of Dantor. I'm a Reiki master, spiritual teacher, divine feminine healer, and full spectrum doula. And I'm here today with my co-host.
Hello, I am Hounsi Lovanna. I am the goddaughter of Mambo Soleil, also a senior priestess with Envision of Dantor. And I am a dreamer. I like to help people manifest their dreams as well, whether that is through dream alchemy, shadow work, energy healing, sound healing, or just general life coaching.
So, speaking on that topic of manifestation, today we're going to talk about manifestation in motion, or the works that we need to put in to manifest. Um, a while ago, when I was a freshman in college, in Psychology 101 lab, we talked about The Secret. And I don't know if you remember The Secret, but it was a book and a film that was by Rhonda Brine. And it kind of popularized the law of attraction, where it was like, if you think positive, if you visualize positivity, if you're grateful for that, you can have and you can receive. So we wanted to discuss, with it being, towards the end of the year, and a lot of people are going to be doing their vision boarding and making resolutions for the new year. We wanted to talk about, like, at what point do you actually have to act towards what you're trying to call in? So on that note, Lovanna, what would you say is a good general definition of manifesting?
Yes, so my working definition for manifesting is that it is the process of turning your desires into reality by aligning your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions. Is there anything like that you would add to that? Just a general working definition?
No, I think that's a good general definition in terms of, like, just the understanding of what we think manifestation is today. And so, in the context of, being a root worker or a conjurer, um, we do a lot of different things to make sure that our efforts in manifesting are not only effective, but um, amplified to a certain extent, right? So I know I always pull on the scripture back in Proverbs where faith without works is dead. And so I truly believe that in order to manifest it, you need not only to have the belief and the intention, but you also have to have an active participation and an effort in that thing. So for you, what level of effort do you feel that, like, a practitioner or just a regular person has to put in to make sure they're manifesting these goals or dreams?
What level of effort? Um, is maximum effort a cop out? Like, it really one, it kind of just depends on, the situation. And you really have to um assess what it is that you want and really be clear on your goals and what you're trying to manifest in the first place, right? And then again, you have to really think about, when you're trying to manifest something, that it isn't what we've been talking about in terms of what the secret is popularized, but that there is action that's going to be required, and you have to make sure those actions, those things that you're doing, are in alignment with what you're trying to call in. And for some people, that's that might be super easy, right? Like if they're already, like, say they're trying to manifest, like, we call it prosperity, but really, realistically, most people are trying to manifest more money, right? You want more money. Are you a person who typically like manages your money well? Are you typically, do you have, like, if you're trying to get money for a business, do you have a business plan? Like, is that you? You might not have to realistically do as much as someone who just has this broad idea that they want more money, but then like they know that they don't have a budget or they don't really have a plan. All I know is that money is probably going to make things easier. And did they even evaluate to see if that would fix their problem long term? So I think when it comes to effort, it really kind of depends on like where you are and what you need to do to, on your end to kind of bridge that gap. Like think about like I guess a way of thinking about it is like, okay, don't just think about manifesting the thing, but you have to think about what happens when you get the thing you want and almost work backwards to make sure that you're getting it, right? So again, not your thoughts have to be aligned, your intentions have to be aligned, and your actions have to be aligned. So yes, it kind of just depends. So there is definitely effort that needs to take place, right? But I think it varies person by person. As a practitioner, it's something that you just have to be honest about your like honest to yourself and really intentional about the effort that you're putting in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So what I hear you saying is like there's just a certain level of personal responsibility. And it's not just sitting and like, okay, I want to be rich one day. I want $1 million in my bank account. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to visualize $1 million entering my bank account. And then one day, because I truly believe and I'm very positive about that, I'm going to get $1 million in my bank account. Right? That's not how manifestation works. And manifestation doesn't work by just taking a random symbol that you have no clue where it comes from, no backstory, no understanding of what it is, writing it on your hand and just be like, oh, I'm going to just have all this money coming in randomly and automatically just because I used the random symbol, right? There's, like Lovanna was saying, there's a certain level of personal responsibility. And this is why one of the rituals that Mambo Soleil does quarterly is Rich Spirit, so that you can um, uncover what blockages are there for you to have money, because you can call in all the money that you want to call in and you may receive it, yes, but like a debilitation of the Ace of Pentacles is that you're having all this money, this new money, but it's just flowing through your hands. You don't know how to handle it. So like, do I, like she said, do I need a budget, or are there other things? Do I satisfy my base urges too much through spending money, um or etc.? What is it? Am I lazy, right? Because if you're calling in wealth and prosperity and you want to be this rich person, you have to understand what it takes to get to that place and what you need to do in order to do that. So I think I try to add my 2 cents on like the personal responsibility piece.
Yes. So yes. You really have to think about another way of looking at it is like everybody is familiar with like spiritual blockages, right? Or like, that term is kind of almost fuzzy in itself. Like people are like, oh, like I have a blockage towards XYZ. You have to sit and think about like what your personal actions like that you're doing, what personal actions you're doing that are causing blockages to your manifestation. So yes, that shadow work, like you were talking about, in terms of like what am I doing to counteract those things. Another thing that I don't think that people really think about, and I know that as practitioners we think about all the time in terms of like your environment, your immediate environment, like your physical space, also has to match what you're
Mhm.
trying to manifest. And a lot of ways, well, in like practically the most accessible way to do that, even just cleaning. Having a clean space matters so much. There's this law within the law of attraction. So that's another thing. Like people just stop at the law of attraction, but there are other components to it that I don't it's not as cute, it's not as fun as just like, oh, I'm just gonna manifest, and if I just believe in it hard enough, then it's gonna come. And I think that we do ourselves a little bit of disservice when we don't dig a little deeper. But there's this other law within the law, and literally, like verbatim, it states nature abhors a vacuum. And so what that means is that like nature in general, it hates empty spaces. And so when you physically remove things from your environment that aren't in alignment with your goals, the universe is going to like rush to fill that space in with something. And so if you are moving out like literal dirt and clutter, right? That creates space in your home, that it creates space for like the energy that you're trying to manifest to kind of flow through a little bit better, and it helps you attract the things you want. Also something that like it's not just your physical space, like your belongings, right? Like not just your home, but another aspect that you want to think about also is like the people, like people who are one occupying your physical space, but also just who you are keeping around you in general in terms of how they impact your ability to manifest. You know, because if you are trying to manifest something, but the person next to you is either like, it could not even be that they're actively going against you, right? But maybe their goals are the complete opposite of yours, and so like their energy is going to kind of work against you, or like if you notice that like you're the only person that you are hanging out with that is like ambitious and wants to do xyz. um what is it, it's like birds of a flat feather, right? It's almost like that, like attracts like, again, where like if you're surrounding around yourself around people who um don't really care and aren't care about the same things you do, you're just going to keep attracting more things like them. But if you remove yourself from the environment or find people who are on your level or want to manifest the same thing, it's going to be easier. Yeah. So,
Yeah. So yeah, environment is very important when it comes to manifesting. You have to make sure that you have a conducive and a healthy environment to bring in the things you're manifesting. And speaking on having people, like not just from the standpoint of birds of a feather, but also the crab in the bucket type of analogy, where you have to make sure that the people in your circle are not also intentionally or unintentionally bringing you down. Like they're not preventing your ability um, to think positively on that standpoint, but also like just they can block your ambition, they can block your motivation. There's a lot of ways in which a so-called friend can try to interfere, and then there's also the aspects of jealousy, etc. Like um, you gotta know who's in your corner and who supports you, who's going to help and aid you. um, and speaking on cleanliness, a lot of us I see on Facebook, and maybe I shouldn't use us, but a lot of people in the Facebook groups, you'll see where they're like, what deities can I work with? Or like Saint Expedite, can I use him to call in fast money? Or um, Oshun or Izili Freda or whatever. There's people who just like, I'm going to use this particular deity because I know they're tied to money. And then their space that they set up is not conducive for working with any spirit, let alone those spirits or deities, right? So like on the terms of cleanliness, it's not only like, yes, we need to donate We need to like clear the clutter so that way you can also call in new things. It's a physical representation um, of 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 you in a sense. I don't know if you've ever like felt like your room is really cluttered and dirty and then you just have all this mental fog, and as soon as you clean it up, it's like you have a lot more clarity. Like they go hand in hand, and it's very similar on both realms of the carnal and the spiritual realms. And so if you have a altar space or a space you're putting offering for a deity, and you got mess and dust and crumbs and whatever everywhere, they're not going to want to work with you, right? Like it's just um it's important to consider your environment and what you're trying to manifest in, whether you're doing actual magical workings or not.
And that just made me think of something else, even just in terms of your physical environment or even yourself, like how you treat your environment or how you treat yourself or how you treat whatever also again signifies to the universe, to spirit, whomever you want to work with. It signifies like it gives them an idea of how you're going to treat what you're manifesting. And so if you're treating yourself like crap, if you're treating your environment like crap, whatever it is, then that's signaling to the universe that you're not ready for, like, why would I give you more stuff if you can't even handle the things that are around you as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to go back to the point where you said like the universe kind of fills in once you get rid of something, and then it just kind of fills in. And so even that is an important point when you're trying to manifest something. If you have done the process of release, whether that be through cord cutting or whether that be through um, just clearing out a lot of debt, etc. Whatever area you're trying to manifest in your life, if you're also not making sure that you aren't intentionally or unintentionally calling in those same things you just released, it's easier to attract and bring in what's familiar to you. Right. That's why you can see yourself in these continuous patterns of relationships. Or you'll see a lot of people like say, I did a cord cutting, but I still can't let this person go. He's still coming back in my life. He's still, et cetera, et cetera. There's still a whole lot of practical steps that you have to take to make sure that you're not accidentally or intentionally on purpose rolling in those same exact situations and scenarios that you wanted to leave behind. Um, and it takes a certain level of truly letting go in order to bring in the new thing that you're calling for.
Yes, I agree. And it goes back to that personal accountability we were talking about earlier, where you really have to be honest to yourself, like when you're manifesting, when you're doing your vision board, again, that end goal, like you really have to be honest about yourself about what you are willing to do to achieve that. Like what are you willing to do? And I think that's another thing why the whole like manifestation thing took off, like in terms of like just understanding it as, oh, I just have to like think and positively and believe and change my password, because that doesn't take a ton of effort, right? Like that doesn't cost you much to do in terms of manifesting something. But if you have to sit down and think about like what I might have to sacrifice to manifest, I might have to, like you said, like cut, stop intentionally, unintentionally sabotaging myself. Like, am I ready to kind of face those inner thoughts, inner like feelings that are causing me to do this? Um, am I willing to pick up extra shifts if I need to? Like, am I willing to cut out that person that I know I needed to cut off anyway? Like, you know what I mean? Like really taking a step back and thinking about like what am I willing to do on my end to make sure that this happens is really, 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 really important when it comes to manifestation.
Mm-hmm. I
Um, uh,
sorry. I
Good.
was reading something and I forgot what it was, but they were talking about sacrifice. And I believe the person was like, a lot of people, in terms of, being a practitioner, they think of sacrifice as like giving, you know, offerings, like not just regular offerings, but like actual sacrificial blood, etc. offerings, like chicken or goat, sheep, whatever have you. But like in terms of like present day and ourselves, what do we hold dear? What is of value to us? What effort, all of that is on a lines of like, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to get the thing you're calling in? And your time, your energy, your thoughts, all of those things are components of like, what do I hold value, and what am I willing to do in terms of sacrifice?
I completely agree with that. And another point that I was just thinking of in general, because we've been talking about, again, we've been really emphasizing the action piece, and really when it comes to action, like what is your end of the equation? Like, you are asking, the universe or spirit to do something for you. Another way of thinking about it is that, especially in ATR, we're always talking about an exchange of energy, right? And so it's just not always going to be a passive process, because you might have to put in the energy to exchange with spirit, right? But it's also not going to be as passive of an experience, because if you think about energy in general, rather that is like kinetic, like physical energy, if we're talking about spiritual energy, it is always in motion. Like, even when we're thinking about manifestation, we're calling something in, right? That's in motion. So if you're not in motion, that creates opposition, right? You have to be doing something. You cannot just be sitting there. So yeah, that's another point that I was thinking about, in terms of, thinking about personal accountability and sacrifice, and like, okay, like, what am I going to put into motion? Like, how am I going to keep this motion going?
Yes. And I think that's a good point, that, energy is always moving. And when we think about emotions, it's just energy and motion. And so, another key thing when you're manifesting is to watch your emotions, to watch how you're feeling, how you're allowing yourself to feel. Are you ungrateful? Like, that is a very big thing. Like, you should express gratitude to yourself, express gratitude to your ancestors, to your spiritual core, to the universe, what have you. But expressing gratitude is something that is very important for calling in new things. Making sure that there isn't a whole lot of grief and sorrow that has you feeling very not optimistic, right? Like, it's hard to call in things if you just feel like it's not going to happen anyways, if you feel like you're going to fail or you're a failure. Allowing your anxiety to get out of control is something that also can have you spiraling. And I think there's a difference between the feelings of anticipation and the feelings of anxiety, which I recently experienced this. I had just finished working. I went to the river to, let it go and release it. And I expressed a lot of gratitude and thanks, and, said my prayer. And then I go back in my car, and all of a sudden I'm feeling like very jittery and very like just butterflies in the stomach, stuff that my heart is pounding, stuff that I would be like, oh, I'm anxious. Why am I anxious? like, is this not going to happen? Like, because I'm always anxious, and and then I go into this cycle of anxiety. And then so it's important to recognize that anxiety and anticipation can kind of feel the same way, right? Like, if you're really excited about something, your heart might skip. You may feel those butterflies. So those same symptoms that you may think is anxiety may just be the anticipation. Your excitement, the excitement of the universe, of spirit, of your ancestors, right? Especially if you're someone who's really clairsentient and feels a lot of things in the body, those are things that you may experience. Or you may have a lot of rush of like just cognitive thoughts, right? And your mind's racing every which way, and you're like really overwhelmed by that, and now you're kind of spiraling in thoughts. So it's really important to understand that um that how that shows up for you, and how you can deal with it, right? Like, so taking some deep breaths, and for the actual physical symptoms of anticipation, and allowing those to just move through your body, like just let it go in and out and let it go. Or those thoughts that are racing in, just journaling, because they could be downloads, right, from spirit. And they might not just be a whole lot of different ideals that you feel are like disconnected and taking you all different ways to go. They might actually, if you wrote them out, sat down and thought about them, they might be something that you can piece together into a whole thing. um, and so it's important to recognize, what emotions am I feeling in this moment while I'm trying to manifest, and then interrogate those emotions. I think it's called, what is it, bottom up type of processing of emotions. And you are like first allowing yourself to feel the emotion. When we don't allow ourselves to feel the emotion, and we don't allow that emotion to move, we create a blockage. How that blockage shows up, it varies based on the person. But allowing yourself to just let the emotion feel, move, breathe, and then interrogating it, like, what is this emotion? When was the last time I felt this emotion? How has this emotion impacted me? And what can I do to continue to allow movement of this emotion? Um, and that would help, making sure that you're in the best mind frame, the most holistic way of calling in things.
You said a lot of really good things in terms of making sure that you are managing your emotions. So again, that piece of manifestation that is not just your thoughts, but that your emotions have to be in alignment as well. That's really good. And really, like you said, thinking about the difference between anxiety and anticipation. So I like what you said in terms of like taking the time to really think about like what you're feeling. But I also want to call out like being aware of that is really good, because there are some people who are really anxious and like or will be like, oh, I'm just eager, oh, I'm just like really eager for this to happen, I'm just like really anticipating things. And so it's like it's almost like they lean into the anxiety, and their excuse is like, oh, like I'm just really excited for this. And it's like, no, no, you have to remember that those are two different things. And if your anxiety looks like you are panicking, if you're overwhelmed, if you're still like really stressed, basically if it's having a negative impact on you, right? Like, you know, when you're excited, like when you're like truly excited about something, like you're gonna like usually feel pretty good about it. You might be a little bit like anxious in terms of like I hope this goes okay, like I'm just like so excited, I hope nothing like goes wrong. But like really those feelings of anticipation are gonna feel, like you said, like in terms of like figuring out like what that really looks like for you. If you sit down to really think about it, there is a difference between those two emotions. And so even if you are like, okay, I'm feeling a little anxious and excited at the same time, which, you know, honestly, as humans, that those anxiety and anticipation really do sometimes go hand in hand, especially if you just tend to be an anxious person in any, like, in general, then it's like any emotion is paired with anxiety. And so you have to again make sure that you're sitting down to separate those two things. And so I really enjoyed that you called that out. Another thing that came to mind, when you're talking about how do emotions show up physically, like how do spiritual things show up for you, whether that's your, when you were talking about your clairsentience or the rush of thoughts that were coming to you in terms of like maybe perhaps claircognizant. It really goes back to, I think we've talked about this before, in terms of just having a general spiritual regimen and making sure that you just have general spiritual alignment with yourself, and that you are just really aware. And so it's not, manifestation isn't just like this isolated thing that you do. You really have to like incorporate it. Well, you really have to have your lifestyle make sure that it's conducive for it. Like you have to, like you talked about, having gratitude. I was also thinking about affirmations as another thing that really helps you when it comes to your thoughts and your actions, right? And so if you think about having a gratitude practice, having an affirmation practice, meditating to sit down and really think of, like, to meditating to understand like what it looks like when spirit is talking to you, when it looks like when you're really tapping into your intuition and having an understanding of your emotions, or even what, like exercising to make sure that you're getting, again, that like physically moving to make sure that you're getting certain energies out of you. Like, it pretty much, like, manifestation isn't, it can't be done in a vacuum. It has to be a lifestyle almost. Yes, you have to adjust your lifestyle in order to manifest.
Yes, that's a good point to make. And it's not just a one-time thing, right? Like it's not just something you sat there one day and was like, I'm calling in a new husband, and I want my husband to be this way, and I'm going to meet him on this date, and just think about that one time and be like, yeah, it's going to happen. I truly believe it. It's a process. Manifestation is a process. There's a lot of work, and there's a lot of things that you put in there and that you develop in your lifestyle, and making sure that we've talked about all those different pieces of things that have to be kind of collect together and cohesive so that we are manifesting properly, in a way, if you will. um, I think we've kind of spent 30 minutes harping on everybody about like the physical actions and whatever effort that they need to put in. What about like in terms of magic, right? Like, so what are some basic practical ways that you could combine with, let's say, a vision board, so that you're calling in new things or manifesting new things for the new year?
Practical magic for manifesting. Actually, all right, I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to answer your question. But another point that I did want to pull out is that manifestation might look different for other people. And so you might have to incorporate other things, such as, like Fredasi said, like what are some things we can do in magic to either enhance our manifestation or support it? Like magical workings. Am I hearing you correct? Like what kind of like workings or
Not specific workings, but like anything kind of general. Like, I mean, what are some, well, let's start with this. What are some like go to herbs you may use to um, call in, I don't know, like something like, let me see. A lot of people may be manifesting new love and wealth. I think are the two biggest ones that people want to call in. So, what would you say are some like basic herbs that you would use to call in wealth?
that? Yeah, so really it kind of almost depends. We've kind of talked about how manifestation requires a multifaceted approach, but also when you're thinking about herbs, it's kind of going to be in contingent on how exactly you want the thing to manifest. But just off the top of my head, like we have the heavy hitters, right? Like basil, laurel or bay, cinnamon, clove. Um, I am personally always I love rose. I love rose. She's very diverse, right? Um, so those in terms of like herbs, I think those are some good ones. Do you have any others that you really like in terms of either like prosperity or attraction? Like, calling something in. Oh, and rosemary.
I'm pretty sure those are like the biggest ones. Um, I think that I should think if there's any other. I may combine jasmine depending on what the scenario is. I may also include jasmine just because I love the combination of rose and jasmine. But also, jasmine's good if you're looking for debt relief and or to collect debt, right? Like if your baby daddy is not paying child support and you want to do some work to make sure that he starts paying his child support again, some jasmine may be a gentle way of calling that in for you. But yeah, the ones you mentioned are kind of pretty popular. So, in terms of using these herbs, how do I say this delicately? Do you feel like it's just, oh, I want to be prosperous this month, so I'm gonna blow the cinnamon on my floor and then I'm gonna sweep it up? Like, do you feel like there has to be some form of intention, or because somebody told me on Facebook, don't forget to blow your cinnamon into your doorway? Do you feel like that is enough?
You know what? First of all, if it works for you, if that truly works for you, do it. Right? If that's working for you, I'm not gonna say anything about it, right? But we just spent a whole bunch of time saying that like you need to be intentional and you have to have a certain amount of personal accountability. And I also just said like what is going to work for somebody else might not be the thing that you need to do. And so, in terms of magic, at least, as a hoodoo practitioner, as a student of voodoo, right? When in our world, we're working with our ancestral spirits a lot of the times, right? And so, my process is always going to be like, like sitting down with my spirit team and being like, how do I do this? Like, what is like the best method to do this, right? And so, if all you need to do is blow cinnamon and that works for you and that's going to get the job done, great. But I do think for the most part, having those intentions and really taking some time to connect with the herb, because a lot of the herbs that we listed are really and talked about are really, really like they can do a lot. They're so diverse. And even in terms of like we're talking about prosperity, right? Like the herb can do several different things just in terms of prosperity usually. Like it just depends on how you want it to show up. And so really connecting with the herb and making sure that like you're putting your intentions your and that the herb is enchanted for those specific intentions is going to be really important when it comes to your manifestation. Like you have to give the herb instructions to make sure that it gets carried out the way that you want it to. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it, at least.
Yes, I totally agree. And to your point, if just blowing cinnamon works for you and you feel like that makes you prosperous for the month, that's amazing. But think about what more could be added if you're actually developing a relationship with the cinnamon. If you're actually speaking to the cinnamon and you're telling the cinnamon, hey, this is what I know you are known for. So please help me. I don't know. I always come to spirits with a contrite heart, right? So I'm just like, please help me in doing this because you are known for that. This is your area of expertise, and you know, hyping the hyping the herb up a little bit, like, but just how much more could you call in it had you set a little bit of intention? So I challenge you to try that out come the first of the month, especially, it's January 1st. A lot of us do a lot of traditional things, right? We make our black eyed peas. We walk in the house with $1 for some people. I don't do that, but a lot of people do that. Or you make your collard greens and you do all of these rituals, because that's what they are, around the new year. And you're like, whether you know it or not, I think at this point, a lot of us have a sense of why our family may have did this. But come January 1st, I challenge everybody to do these things with intention. If you're cooking your black eyed peas, sit with your grandma or whatever ancestor you want to, and just like make it a time. Like, just cook with intention, say your prayers, say your psalms, what have you, make your collard greens with intention, and see how that works out for you, and come back and report in the comments under this post. I'm very excited to hear about how that can aid in your manifestation process. Another thing I wanted to point out too, when you talked about um, about how to speak to the herbs and telling it what to do for you, because you need to give the herb direction. And when you think about cinnamon, right? Cinnamon is fire. Cinnamon is fast moving. It can be impulsive. It can move really quickly. Yes. And see, the thing about using a herb that can move very quickly like that, you can call in stuff very quickly, but is it lasting all the time? Like, is it terms of longevity, how is that working out? you know and so, and then, other than just calling in um financial, like actual tangible money on the first, what else can cinnamon do for you that you need for that month? How can it aid you in other aspects of your life? So that's something to consider too, because a lot of these herbs don't just focus on one area. I know, like, when I work with Rose a lot with a lot of different things. And so sometimes I may use Rose to aid in my financial prosperity. Sometimes I may use it for love. But there's so many other aspects of, like, um, friendship and my self love, or just calm and peace, or focus, assertiveness. There's just so many other aspects of each herb that you can also take advantage of if you took the time to understand the properties of that herb, and um, what your ancestors did with those herbs, etc. I'm not gonna do a whole course on herbalism right now because I've done that. It's on my website, but you know, I could talk all day about that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna add a couple of things. Just in terms of, first of all, I think that challenge, y'all, we got to do this challenge for real. Like, that is a brilliant challenge in terms of, like, whatever, like, familial New Year's cooking or traditions or rituals, like you said, that you do it with intent. That is that is perfect. I mean, like, you should, start to do that in your everyday life, but really think about those New Year's ones in particular. I think it's great to make sure that you are doing those with intention. I also, in terms of, you know, building a relationship with an herb, or, like, you only know what you know, right? And so I'm just gonna tell you guys a little bit a secret. you could actually, like, once you have like a like once you're like developing a relationship with an herb, you could just ask it. You could just ask it what else it can do. So just sit, meditate with an herb, see what else it can do, and you might be surprised what it comes up with for you. And yeah, so you know, do that. And then in terms of what you were talking about, again, in considering what else herbs can do, not just like herbs in general, but when we're thinking about manifestation, magic, be creative. Like you have your goals, and just take some time to think about the different ways that those goals can be achieved, or the different ways that something can be manifest. Because another way that like people can sometimes block themselves off is that they have like this vision that this specific thing has to happen this particular way, when in reality there might be other avenues to explore, other strategies that might be easier. And so you might be delaying your manifestation in that regard because you're so focused on like, oh, like instead of like if somebody owes you money, for example, right? The issue is that you're at a loss for money. Like you don't have the money. And so like in a debt recovery spell, like sometimes it's this person specifically has to pay me back, but sometimes it doesn't matter where the money comes from as long as I'm made whole. And so that opens you up completely. Now you have several different options instead of such and such specifically giving you the money back. Like at the end of the day, like I just want my money. We might have to do some other work to deal with such and such, but like if I'm concerned about my money to do a spell, I don't care where it comes from. Give me my money back. And so that's something that you really want to think about in terms of manifesting, is like being open and being creative and being strategic in how you can manifest certain things and how they play out in your life.
Yes, very true. So you know what we would be like really fun? Like if there was like, cause you know how like people do those vision board parties? You know what? This is something we may need to do as a coven. Anyways, but if there's like a where people are gathering and they're doing their whole vision board, scrapbooking, and making it all pretty and stuff. And then you light, like, let's say, like a tea light candle, right? And y'all are in circle, just like kind of aiding each other in this visualization process. I feel like that would be a very powerful thing. Like if you have friends like that who are all into the same thing, in terms of using magic or etc., and you turn your vision board party into like this grand experience, like having other people to support you and call in the same thing and pray for you and be excited for you, that can only amplify. I think that would be amazing.
Yo, like a manifestation party, like a we gotta work on a title for that. But no, I like it. I like it. You're right in terms of what we were saying or earlier about how like the people who are around you and who are able to support you really really matter. And so, and also there's going to be more power in numbers, right? And in terms of putting that energy towards what you're manifesting, like you not only have yourself, but you have the support of other people who are actively helping you to call in the thing that you want. That is really powerful. I like that idea, in terms of, because you're right, like vision board parties are like really really popular, especially around the top of the year. How can you take your vision boarding or what you're doing with your friends, and um how can you take it to the next level? And so I think, yeah, like you said, like having a tea light candle, or even just taking the time to visualize with or and pray for people, those are really powerful things. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be fun. So in terms of like if you are doing a vision board, I want to like just like it's not just I'm gonna make this and I'm gonna set it up and then you forget about it, right? Like there are some things that you can do. You have your goals that you want for next year. Break it up into steps, objective, actionable steps. And that way it doesn't feel as if it's just this big thing that you only are visualizing. If you break it up into steps, like for example, I want to make such and such a money come the first quarter of the year. So think about how breaking that down is, what am I going to? I will advertise every day this, and this is how I, and you can further break that up, right? Or I will make sure that I spend this many hours each week, et cetera, et cetera. Just making sure that you yourself have some actionable steps that helps you with putting in the action it takes to get the thing you're calling in. Um, and then also, in terms of like, because I do see a lot of people who do like a lot of candle work, so I think that's kind of the most popular thing when people are trying to manifest or call in new things or what have you. um Clean your candles. I just clean your candles, clean the outside of candles, take the labels off, um and talk to your herbs and chant your herbs, bless your herbs, give your herbs offering and set that up. Um, and then, pray over your candle or speak incantations into your candle and just actively be a part of the process. And that can aid, not only help you feel like you have some sort of control and ownership, like it's not just, oh, I'm waiting on the universe, but also it's, hey, I've put in some work for this and I'm actually, I'm doing a good job at this. And, um, and then you can also see, if you're, jotting down notes, what worked for you, what doesn't work for you, and make it a whole thing. And this is how you come up with your own spells. And then you don't have to keep returning to other people and be like, hey, what spells can I do for this? And what spells can I do for that? Yeah.
I completely agree. Another thing to think about in terms of actively, like she was saying, well, like you were saying about praying over the candle, like as long as it's it's lit, as long as the fire is burning, right? A lot of people will do like a 7-day candle, right? And so it can be lit over an extended period of time, like days even. Like making sure that you're actively, ideally throughout the day or at least daily, like praying over that candle. It's going to add to the energy of the candle. It's going to keep the work in alignment. But even doing that simple practice actually really helps you to kind of reset each time and realign your own thoughts and intentions and emotions with the working as well. And so that's why it's another reason it's important to really interact with that work and being active in that process, in terms of not just making the vision board and then setting it, right? Like the whole purpose of the vision board was not just so you could see it in the moment, but that you are looking and engaging with it every day to remind you that these are the things that I want, that these are the things that I am calling in. I would even, I've never done this before, but I'm thinking like, what if you say a prayer or you have a list of affirmations that go along with your vision board so that you are like checking in every day and realigning with those big intentions and the things you're trying to manifest. And I really also enjoyed what you said about breaking it down into like tangible actions that you can do. So again, it's not like I'm manifesting a yacht. Okay, that's amazing, but like what do you need to do to like get that yacht? Like, is a yacht really, you really just want like a yacht to drop in your lap somehow, or just like appear out of thin air, right? And so the concept that you were like talking about, it reminded me of like the SMART goals acronym, and making sure that the things that you want are specific, measurable, so that like you're able to kind of track your progress in getting the goals. Actionable, yes, having things that you can actually do to aid the process. um they say realistic. That's important. I think you should dream big at the same time. Like, don't let but it should still be tangible. Like, the reason it needs to be tangible is so that you can actually do it. Like, don't make your goal, like, if you're trying to like lose weight, right? Don't make your goal to work out 5 hours a day, right? That's not, that's not realistic. That's also not very healthy, right? Like, you might have to start off with 30 minutes, like meet yourself where you are in terms of like manifesting that dream body, right? And then giving yourself like time limits, and like not just I want to manifest this, or like I want to manifest this, and so by this date, right? Like you said, like I want to at least have like these things that I think are going to be aligned, and making sure that that's done. And so yes, having those smart goals and really actively participating in your working, whatever that is super important.
Yes, very true. Um, I think that it is, so that's a very important step too. And then in terms of like flexibility, like you were talking about earlier, like making sure that you are flexible enough to adjust your steps, just your goals, um, over time. Like if you thought going into the new year that you wanted a specific job, but another one came in its place, like, is that a better opportunity for you? Right? If you realize that, oh, I can't work out 1 hour a day, 5 to 6 days a week, then what can you do? Like you said, it's important to allow yourself to be flexible and to be able to adjust and maneuver. And just because you have these things down on paper or you have it set in your mind doesn't mean that that's the only way it can happen. So, yeah.
Yes, I completely agree. Um, yeah, I can't believe that we've been talking. It doesn't feel like we've been talking for almost an hour. That's crazy. Like, do you have any other like thoughts or final words of wisdom when it comes to manifestation? Or you feel like, we've said it all at this point?
The only thing I would um, add when we're doing manifestation magical work, that it's also important to divine. And I know that a lot of people feel that it's a daunting task to learn how to use divination tools. But if you just kind of practice with yourself multiple times a week, over time you will get it and you got it. And I know in our Facebook group, the Sacred Roots, if you post your divination with even a sentence of interpretation, we will add and aid and support you through that. Um, but it's important to know, um, if the way you're going about your working is appropriate. It's important to know if what to be able to troubleshoot what's going on. Like you see a lot of people post black soot in their candles and they're like, what does this mean? And it can mean anything at this point. Like it could mean that you overcrowded the wick. And so now you have all this black soot. It could mean that maybe if the black soot's there and then it stops, it could mean like maybe you blew through an obstacle. It could mean that it's not an effective working. Whatever, you won't know unless you're able to just do a divination. And so we are not always like when we tell people to do a divination, we're not like pay us money to get a reading. We are like just do what you can do and we will help you and we will assist you in doing that. And if you feel like you are not able or capable and you want to help, further help, then yes, we're available to help and support you in doing a full divination, ourselves. But I think divination is also really important when we're talking about magic and working with spirits and understanding what our ancestors want for us.
Yes, I think that's good. And you just reminded me that I don't know how I forgot to mention this, but in terms of divination, right? You're checking to make sure your work is on track, you're troubleshooting, right? But you have to like make sure you have like authorization to do a working, or like realistically, like making sure that what you want to manifest is actually in alignment with what you need or is what is going to be the best for you. And so a lot of times, like the reason that you might have to be trouble manifesting something is because you're simply not supposed to happen. We're not supposed to have it, or it's not the best thing for you at this particular time. And so another reason it's important to divine or check in with spirit is to make sure that like what you're manifesting is actually in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing at that moment or have. Or yes, so that's actually my final thought as well. Just, double check to make sure it's the thing that you actually need to have, and it's actually addressing the problems that you might be having or challenges that you're trying to fix. um, and it might not be another solution that's better for you in that moment. So yes, that's my final words. Like, make sure that number one, we ended on it, but really number one, make sure make sure you're supposed to have this thing. Yeah.
Very, very true. And also divine on the outcome. Um, like there may be additional steps that spirit's like, okay, and then also, this, we got this side, but here, this is something else in addition that you can do to enhance or to make sure that you're ready for when it comes in. It also can help when you if you do a divination on like what's the outcome. It helps in those situations where like you're shocked at how something came to you, and then you're like, oh yeah, I did do that working a little bit ago. Like you may get that insight, and so you're not so shocked when it arrives the way that it arrives too. um but yeah, that's our 2 cents on manifestation and motion, and putting works with your faith. And um I'm so excited that we've been able to put out an episode during the holidays. So, everybody, I hope you have a Merry Christmas. And in terms of working with us, our link trees will be in the description of the video. Also, I have a ritual coming up January 18th. It is one for release, to let go a lot of those things that are holding us back or maybe causing blockages for us to call in new things. So if you're interested in learning more about that ritual, Phoenix Awakening, click the link tree and it'll take you to the WhatsApp group to learn more about that. Um, my website is on sale, 25% off, automatic at checkout. If you're interested in becoming a Reiki practitioner, you can use the code Learn Reiki 2024. That will take an additional 25% off, so a total of 50% off Reiki training. That is good until the end of the year. Which brings me to my final thing. I am going to be teaching Rose Limpia, my first class on Rose Limpia, which is a sort of aura cleansing. So, how can you cleanse your aura yourself or for other people? If my first one's going to be specifically for Reiki practitioners. So, if you are wanting to learn as a Reiki practitioner how to actually use the energy of Rose to cleanse somebody's aura and just enhance your work as a Reiki practitioner, be on the lookout for that. Lovanna, do you have anything that you are offering?
Real quick, I just wanna give you a shout out and say that like I had the pleasure of taking Fredasi's Reiki classes for getting my master Reiki or becoming a Reiki master, and she's really awesome. So definitely check like it's a really good deal. Like it's on sale right now. Definitely check that out. I'm super excited for the Rose. Is it Rose Olympia? I'm really excited for that. And then in terms of myself, be on the lookout. I am in the process of revamping some things with my website. For the new year, I'll be dropping some new offerings again in terms of like dream interpretation, but also some other cool things. So just be on the lookout. And actually, even either join like Facebook or click on my link tree to just stay connected with me and get alerts for when everything drops. So.
Yes, sounds good. Please like and like the video and subscribe and share. We would love to see your comments as well. Don't forget, I challenged y'all for the new year. Do things with intention and come back. Tell us what your tradition is and what you did and how that helped you or how you felt during the moment. We look forward to you guys joining us again for another episode of the Empress Journey. Have a good, happy holidays. Bye.
Bye.